Hello, my name's Mel, welcome to my world, and for those of you that are new to my channel, I'm currently working on this Volkswagen Crafter, turning it into an off-grid stealthy camper van, and today I'm going to be fitting a Ctek charge controller. This is a smart charge controller because this van has a smart alternator. Let's go! Now, according to the picture on the back of the box, this is really simple to wire up. As you can see, a really simple basic diagram, and that's exactly why Becky chose this, because it looked simple to wire up. But unlike my Ring DC to DC charge controller, you need a separate live feed for this, which makes it a little bit complicated, which is why Becky has asked me to step in and help out. So let's have a look what we get in the box. In the box we get an instruction manual, nice and glossy by the way. Unlike the Ring DC to DC charge controller, their manual isn't anywhere as near as posh as this, and it's in a multitude of languages, so that's a mark of quality for a start. Now the actual charge controller itself, it's really simple. There's no fancy schmancy display panel. It's simply a couple of little LEDs, making it really simple to use. It does everything itself. After all, it is a smart charge controller. Now the main difference with this one is we do have an extra couple of leads, and these need to be fed from the ignition. I think we'll tackle that first because that's probably where most people have the biggest hang up. All this stuff is pretty self-explanatory. It's this part where most people get a little bit nervous, shall we say. It's also got a heat sensor as well to check the temperature of your batteries. So all in all, quite a nice little package. So I've decided to fit the charge controller in the battery box itself, right next to the batteries, so there's not that much length of cable coming from the charge controller to the battery, keeping our lengths of cable nice and short. But the main cable coming from the engine battery, I've already fitted this in place. The other end of this cable is attached to our main engine battery. So this I need to connect to this, which is really simple. You've simply got a terminal there that you connect it to. The most difficult thing, like I said earlier, is figuring out where these little thin wires go. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm actually going to read the instruction manual for this one. So after consulting this instruction manual, I now know where these smaller wires have got to go, and they go in different configurations depending on your batteries. They have two configurations, one for AGM or lead acid batteries and one for lithium ion batteries. All I need to do is connect the black wire to earth, and the red, this tiny little red cable, needs to go to an ignition feed. So that's our next job, is to find a live feed from the ignition to this little red cable. So that's what I'm going to do next. Before I put this in place and connect all these cables up, I'm going to go up the front, have a look in the fuse box and try and find a live feed. Now connected to our main battery, one wire connected to our ignition feed. All I've got to do now is mount this to the side bulkhead. As you can see, I've mounted it right there using 4 screws. Our first connection is our main battery cable, and that goes to the terminal marked A. Now here's a strange thing, nowhere in the instructions or any wiring diagram can I find a fuse rating to run between the ignition to the control wire. So that's a bit odd. I'd like to put a fuse in, so I'm going to use a little 5 amp fuse to go between the little red wire, like this, and this is a handy way to make your own fuse holder. Just simply use some spade connectors like that. And there you go, that is now fused. It's only a little 5 amp fuse. That's just because I can't find any diagrams anywhere, and I think it should have a fuse really. So that's just a little safety measure that I've put in place. Now the black and red wire is our negative feed. So if this were lithium batteries, this black and red wire would go to our live terminal, but because these are AGMs, it's simply used as a negative. So because it's a negative, rather than make this wire longer and run it down to our negative terminal, I'm simply going to screw it to the negative terminal on the actual unit itself, and that's held in place using this screw. And it's quite difficult to do one-handed, but I'm sure I can manage. And we're going to place that in there like that. Now I'm not going to do this up just now because I need to run a thick negative cable from the unit to the negative of our battery. So I think I'll probably do that next. So I've just quickly knocked up this negative cable, and I'm going to place that, like I say, through there onto there. And the nice thing about this unit is, if I pull that down a bit and move the camera around, you can actually see the negative terminal, which is quite clearly marked. And the other end of this negative cable goes to our negative on the battery. I won't do it up just yet because I'll need to place another cable on there to connect our other negative up. Now to complete our neutral circuit, I'll need to add this battery monitor, because this goes in our neutral. It goes between the battery and our negative earthing point on the van. So this is the main component of our battery monitor. It's called a shunt, and it literally goes between the battery and the earth of the vehicle. Really simple little device really. I'm going to fit it and then I'll show you how it looks. So I've fixed the shunt to the back of the battery box, as you can see, and the neutral cable simply goes to the shunt and across the shunt to the other side of the neutral, which then goes to our earthing point at the back of the vehicle. I'll show you where that is right now. So the other end of that negative cable comes to the main post here, and I've put a nice ground there. I've drilled through, made a hole, removed all the paint, as you can see, so it makes a nice negative contact. This cable goes up to our monitor, and you've got one live cable which goes to our battery right there. Simple as that. Let's take a look at what the monitor says. So here is our battery monitor. If I press this little button, you'll be able to see the state of our battery. There's the charge, and it is 12.94. Now if you are interested in all the specifications of all this sort of equipment, I'm not going to run through it in the video, but I will put a link in the description of this video to where you can find all these components and look at all the specifications for those of you that are interested. And now to finish off our circuit, we're going to end on a positive note. So our positive simply goes to the outlet feed on the CTX, and you can see that on the little symbol there behind that, I don't know if the camera can get round there or not, you can see the little battery symbol, so that means that terminal goes to our battery. And between this terminal and the battery we need an inline fuse, just for safety's sake, and this fuse is going to be a 30 amp fuse. This is what they recommend. Do that one up as well on there. Get it away from there. So make sure that one's done up. Simply goes on there, and to bridge the gap between the batteries to complete our circuit, we need to put this on here like this. Now I'm using locking washers, and these nuts and washers came with the batteries. They was in the kit, so it's very nice of them to add these. I'll do these up tighter later on. I'm just doing this for the purpose of the video so you can see how the circuit works. Now we go from here with just a quick recap. This cable goes to our main battery of the van, so that's our main feed from the alternator, and then our switched live comes from this terminal, goes into the first battery, and then is bridged to the second battery. Now the reason it goes into this first one and the opposite neutral goes to this one is so that the circuit is even across the batteries. So our positive goes into this battery and our negative comes to this battery, and they're bridged across each other. We're using these, which means the circuit comes across ways of the battery, so it takes equal draw and equal charge. Now the heat sensor, I'm simply going to slide underneath, if I can. I'm going to slide that temperature sensor underneath our webbing. That's nice and tight under there, and that will keep an eye on the temperature of our batteries. Now if all that seems really complicated to you, don't worry, there is a simpler solution. It's a ring DC to DC charge controller, and I made a video all about that charge controller, and I'll put a link to that video right there just for you. Thanks for watching, ta-ra for now. Currently working on this. Nearly said my service. Action.